Hey everybody, I'm Howard, and this is Otto's Retirement Corner. Are you bored? Okay, I get it. I'm gonna get all the comments about how boring this video is. I get it, all right? Funny, good. I probably deserve it. Uh, I want to sort of piggyback this on the last one we did, talking about watching TV and occupying yourself with that. Um, and I've been trying to do some research, secondary research, where I'm looking for studies, original research studies about how boredom affects people in retirement or how common it is. And as it turns out, with a lot of topics, there aren't a lot of studies. I go onto Google Scholar and I look for studies, and I found one study that was a study of studies. They found 247 studies about boredom, but only about 5 of them fit the criteria of looking at boredom in retirees. And it was unbiased and solid study and peer reviewed. And it wasn't they weren't very deep, but as it turns out, there is some information. And here's one interesting study, one comment from a study, and it's avoiding boredom through meaningful leisure engagement was considered one of the most important factors in defining healthy aging. So it's an extremely important issue. Boredom leads to a lot of very negative behaviors. It leads to depression. I know for me personally, it leads to eating. I'm a boredom eater. If I'm occupied, I sometimes don't think about eating. I can go, most of the day without eating if I've got stuff to do. Eventually, I'll feel that low blood sugar and I'll eat. But even when I'm well fed, even if I'm full, even if I just had a meal, if I'm bored, I'll scavenge for food. A lot of us do that. And that adds weight. And when I get, I check my weight every day. And when I check my weight and it's high, I cut back my food and I increase my workouts. I'm very active, so fortunately I can do that. But let me piggyback onto the TV thing we were talking about yesterday. So I want to look at some of those activities that help relieve boredom. And I wanted to do a whole thing on movies, but movies are really like, most people watch movies on TV. But I want to talk about movies a little bit, because going to the theater, as opposed to sitting at home and watching movies, can be beneficial. It gets people moving, at least to the car, walking to the theater, walking in the theater, a little bit of movement. But it gets people out. Sometimes they go with friends. It helps relieve loneliness, helps relieve that boredom. There's other people in the theater. Sometimes you can engage with them, sometimes in a negative way. We'll skip that part. So just really quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on movies. I'm not a big movie guy. I think it's kind of ridiculous to pay. I don't even know what they cost, 10, 12, 15 bucks. Senior discounts, I don't know. My wife typically pays for them when we go, so I don't know. But we as I talked about before, we spend over 200 bucks a month for all these movie channels. I'm waiting for the movie to get to the movie channel. If it's a year, and someone commented about this in the last one. Now, I don't mind waiting a year for a new movie to be new to me. It'll show in the theaters. Everyone will forget about it a year later. I'll see it on Netflix or HBO or whatever it is. I'm okay with that. So the last movie I saw, and it was actually a recent one, I saw Oppenheimer. And the reason I did is I've done a lot of reading about the Manhattan Project and the atomic bomb and hydrogen bombs. And, I wanted to see how closely the movie paralleled reality. So it had some interest for me. I didn't particularly like the movie. It was a little boring to me. It did spur me to go out and get this book again. And this is about the making of the hydrogen bomb. And it sort of covers the period from the end of the dropping of the atomic bomb in the Second World War, up until we developed the hydrogen bomb. And it goes all the way into the early 90s and the breaking down of the wall in the Soviet Union. In Berlin. And the breakup of the Soviet Union. So it was of interest to me. I went and saw that. And I'm going to talk about my favorite movies. And please, put in the comments, put your favorite movie. Don't give me 10 movies. Give me 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. I don't care if it's from the 50s or from last year. Tell me what your favorite movie is, because I'm going to tell you mine. I actually have 2. And the first one is Doctor Strangelove. It's a longer title, How Dr. Strangelove or How I Learned to Stop Worrying About the Bomb. Um, my favorite movie, it's a comedy. My second favorite movie is Failsafe. Failsafe is the exact same plot of Dr. Strangelove, only it's a serious version. These are two outstanding movies. Dr. Strangelove has many stars. Peter Sellers plays 3 roles in it. He's outstanding. The greatest performance to me, though, was George C. Scott. He's not known as a comedic actor, and he doesn't play it up, but his humor, his facial expressions, his body posture, if you really pay attention, it's the most hilarious thing. There's an 8-minute bit in there when they're in the war room that is the funniest thing, the funniest single performance I've ever seen in any movie. Agree with me, don't agree with me, but that's what I like, and that's what I'm going to go with. Failsafe is, these were both made the same year, 64, 65, somewhere in there. Same plot, they suit each other, but see them both. Absolutely see them both. So off of that, and what I want to talk about in a little more detail is books. When I retired, I thought, okay, now I've got time to read. The reading I did before I retired was mostly nonfiction. I felt like I didn't really have time for fiction. I wanted to read about real things, real happenings, real events. I read a lot of James Bamford, who writes about the NSA and CIA. I read, the making of the atomic bomb, the making of the hydrogen bomb. I liked real things. I did dabble a little in science fiction, and mostly off of movies I saw. So, when you talk about, Oppenheimer led me to a book, I read that book. So, okay, here I am in retirement. I'm going to read all those books I never had time before. I'm going to read fiction. I'm going to enjoy all the fiction books everyone always tells me about. So, it's like, okay, well, where do I get these books? What books do I buy? What books do I rent? Where do I get these books? So I went to the library. I thought, okay, got my library card. I'm going to be a library guy. I'm going to go to the library every couple weeks, get 2 or 3 books, read, bring them back, get new books. Lo and behold, I went to 2 or 3 local libraries, and none of them had books from this century, in essence. A new book came out by Ben Bernanke about the Fed I wanted to read, being the geek on economics I am, and they didn't have it. And you put your name on a waiting list, and I finally got it in 6 weeks later. They just don't have books, and I don't know, tell me, is that the same in all libraries? I mean, I couldn't find a book I wanted to read. There was nothing in the library. There were so few books. There was a lot of resources and computers and, to help you with a job hunt. You can read newspapers, but there weren't any books, at least, nothing current. And old books aren't bad, but there was nothing interesting for me. Very shallow sections, there'd be 8 books on a big long shelf, and it'd be like that in every shelf, and there's just 2 or 3 libraries, so I gave up. So do you buy books? Most of retirees are on what we call fixed incomes. Some of them are in poverty, some of them don't make a lot of money. Reading books is a good way to cheaply pass your time if you have a library. So, there's Amazon. This cost me $10. I was kind of shocked, but if you buy a new book like this, and most of the new books I bought recently are $30, $35. Or you wait a while and they come out in paperback and they're not so popular and they cost you 10. So anyway, tell me what your experience is with books. Tell me what kind of, tell me a favorite book if you'd like. What turned out is I again, going back to movies spurring reading, I watch a lot of science fiction or science fantasy, and that spurred me to go read the books that they were based upon. Contact was one of my favorite movies. Carl Sagan wrote that. He has several books out. That was his sort of first foray into fiction. He's got a lot of nonfiction. I loved Carl Sagan. The book was different than the movie, and I won't say it was better or worse. It was just different. Both the book and the movie were good. Fahrenheit 451 is one of my favorite stories. Jurassic Park, I liked the movie, and then I read the book, and I thought, who wrote it? Michael Crichton? One of the worst writers I've ever read. It was just like sophomoric writing. I couldn't believe that. Another movie we love, absolutely love, My wife and I is The Martian. You know, came out a few years ago. Seems like a few years ago. It's probably much more than that now. With Matt Damon. We have it on, you know, on our DVD or our DVR or whatever the recording devices we have now. And whenever we're bored, we'll watch Martian. Probably seen it 50 times. I could probably repeat most lines by memory by now. I don't know why, but we love it. So I went and bought the book. And the book was incredibly boring because it was so detailed. You know, so I was like, okay, these movie, you know, these screenwriters, these movie makers kind of know what they're doing when they're taking a book and condensing it into an hour and a half and making a cool movie. So anyway, you know, I'm not going to go into much detail, but, you know, tell me how you get your books. Tell me where you get your books. And tell me what you like. So thanks a lot for watching. Again, please subscribe. Please tell me I'm boring if I'm boring. And like if you like. And we'll see you next time. Bye.